Coach, thank you so much for joining us. You know, you're about to retire. We're going to talk about that. But you're in college. What are you going to do next?
I had my position. My head coach was David Alpe from Malvern, Arkansas, and had a big impact on me. But Charles Mosley was my position coach, and even at early, as a freshman and sophomore, I knew what I wanted to do, and so I wanted to play in college, but I knew what I would end up being was a coach, and so I knew all along that's what I wanted.
Mm-hmm. So, did you go to Lufkin, your first coaching job?
No, I coached. I went to Ouachita Baptist University to play, and I finished there and coached 2 years there before I got into high school, which was at Arkadelphia High School in Arkadelphia, Arkansas, and Coach Outlaw was there, and he left there. We won in 1987. We won a state championship there, and then he got the job at Sherman, Texas, and went with him, and was the special teams coordinator there. And then we were there 7 years. In 1995, he got the job in Lufkin, and then I followed him here.
Tell me that conversation with how he asked you to come to Lufkin.
Well, the one asking me to come to Lufkin was real easy. I was not staying in Sherman without him, and so there was a little bit more of responsibility here. I was the special teams coordinator in Sherman, and then here he asked me to come and be the defensive coordinator. So there was a little more responsibility. And what you wanted, there's kind of steps that you take. You're an assistant coach, and then you go through some type of coordinator position, and then if you choose, some do, some don't. If you choose, then you become a head coach after that. So it's kind of a progression. You don't go from an assistant coach to a head coach normally. That doesn't happen. So there are steps there. But the conversation I had with him leaving Arkadelphia, I lived in Malvern, Arkansas, and Arkadelphia and Malvern were real competitive against each other. Same districts, kind of like Lufkin, Longview. It was real competitive. And so I had a job offer at Malvern. I had a job offer at Arkadelphia High School, and I chose to go to Arkadelphia. So that was, it didn't make everybody happy, but it was where I wanted to be. And so leaving there, because I was originally from about 30 miles north of that's where I grew up, and so going to Texas was a big decision. So I didn't say yes immediately then, but he didn't get the sentence finished when he said he was going to Lufkin. I said, I'm going with you. So it was a real easy decision there.
Did you even know where Lufkin was?
Nope, had to look at it and to figure out where it was at. The closest I'd been was Jacksonville. I had a friend that coached together there in Sherman, and he's from Jacksonville, and so we had come down here one Christmas break and done some work on his rent house, and that's the closest I'd been. And come to find out that my grandfather and my grandmother met in Lufkin in the 30s, 1930s. He worked at a lumber mill here, and but I didn't even know that until I was here. And a few years, and then went back for Thanksgiving or whatever it was, and she said, oh, yeah, that's where we met. So had no idea.
That's funny. All right. Give me your first year in Lufkin with Outlaw. Do you have any remembrance of that? Was it a struggle?
Yes, and it always is. When you change hands or there is a coaching change, it's tough. It's tough on the kids especially because they have to learn a new system and everything about it. So normally you try to, the coach, if it happens and it happens right, they try to get out at Christmas. It gives them time to hire somebody early. They go through spring ball. They get to know them. They go through summer workout. We got here at the end of June. Had no idea who anybody was. Practically had to break into the dressing room because nobody would let us in. They didn't have any idea who we were. And so got here at the end of June and made the relationship with the kids as much as we could going into that first year. They didn't know who we were, and we didn't know who they were, and so it was pretty tough. But through the off season, that first year and that second year, through the season and off season, when you really build the trust and you start building the relationships with the kids. And that was the turnaround, because in 98 is when it was really turned around, had a great year. Went 10-4, got beaten in the fourth round. And so that it takes that long to build that trust and all that. And so it's harder on the kids. The kids have to adjust, and you get new faces in here, and they just have to figure out what's new and what the system is then.
Definitely. So when y'all won state champions, just give me stories about that with Outlaw. Like, did you know that this was going to be the good season that we go to state? Just kind of talk to me about that.
Yeah, we had in 1986, we knew the year before we got beat in the semifinals. We had a low snap on a punt, and the punter knelt down to catch the ball, and they downed him at the 1 yard line. We got beat 7-6 in the semifinals. So you kind of know that as coming in. You don't know, but you have a feeling. It was kind of like the feeling this year. We had a great group of kids. They worked great together. It mattered what the other one thought about them, and you could just see it building in January, and it built all the way through summer. You know when the kids get along. When it's player-led teams, they're always a whole lot better. And so every year that we've been pretty good, it's always been player-led, and and that's everywhere in every program. It has to be player-led. The coaches can guide them, but ultimately, when it matters to a kid what the guy next to him thinks or what he feels, then it makes it a whole lot easier to coach.
Speaking about player-led, do you have any interactions with players that you can look back through these past 30 years of coaching and just you remember that moment?
Well, there's thousands of them. There's just you can't just pull up one. You have favorites. You love them all, but you have favorites, and those are the ones that are there every day. They're on time. They don't miss. They buy into what you're saying, and they work hard, and those are your favorites. It's really got nothing to do with athletic ability. It's the ones that do things right. And there's no way I could name. I just added 43 more this year of being my favorites of those 43 seniors. Yeah. It was a wonderful group, and so everybody has a role. Sometimes the role may not be on the field or on the game field, but everybody has a job to do, and the one that plays at the end of the blowouts or the ones that play every down, you feel about them the same way. They all sacrifice something to get to where they're at, and you really appreciate what they do.
Definitely. So now the year's 2011. Outlaw sadly just passed away, and you're named head coach like a week later. Can you just describe me that week of being named head coach, and were you confused? Were you like, what do I do next?
Well, in that case, you really don't have time to mourn or worry or be nervous or anything. You have to go to work. You got people that are dependent on you. You got kids that are dependent on you. And we were all very fortunate. I was with Coach Outlaw for 26 years total, and so you learn stuff every day from what he's doing, and you can learn good and you can learn bad. Out of the 26 years, everything I learned was good, out of that. But you can learn just as much from someone that's bad. But I was very fortunate to be around a guy that the most important thing were the kids, and that's how he went to work every day. And so we had an idea, and our number one responsibility was to take care of the kids, teach the kids how to handle this. It's always going to happen. Through life, you're going to have to deal with things like this. And so it was our responsibility to model how it should be handled. And maybe you can pass that on to generations on how it should be handled. So you don't really have time on that. And so the biggest thing that we had was, as a group, and we met as a staff before we came back before we came back to school, and we talked about, look, we've all been taught what to do. We've been taught how to do it, and we've got eyes on us that are looking to see how we do this. And so we have a responsibility to do our job, and that was our main thing. We knew what to do. We just had to go do it. And so you don't really have time to do anything other than that, because there's a lot of people that are dependent on us. So tough time. I don't know if there's some of us or some that have never mourned it. Just it starts and you just go. From then on. And so that was 13 years ago. We hadn't looked up since. We just have to go. And so when you're dealing with kids and you have responsibilities to that, you just go.
Coach, you talk about all your coaches together. Like, even though you're the head coach, how you talk about it is like you have a group of coaches that will support you. How important was that during that time?
Well, that starts not just with the coaches, it starts with the administration. We've been very fortunate here to a lot of the guys that are in charge, a lot of the women that are in charge have been a coach at some point in time. And understand the benefits of, it's not the only thing here. It's a part of what we do here that's could be more important than other things to certain kids, but it also gets them up out of bed in the morning to make them come here. Otherwise, maybe they wouldn't. And so there are kids that have no ties to athletics at all, but what they love and what they believe in is what gets them up. And so you use that, and if it's an avenue that gets them into college or gets them to where someone will pay for their degree or gives them an opportunity to be a better mom or a better dad and take care of their kids, then that it all ties together on what we're trying to do here. And so having the coaches that are on the same page, and not everybody is. It's not 100% all the time, but normally those get weeded out because they don't fit in. And if your number one goal is not taking care of kids and making sure they have everything they need, then you really need to go work somewhere else. And that goes from the superintendent all the way down. And there are people that work for a different reason, but they usually don't last here. They move on, and we're very fortunate to have a one-school town, fortunate to be a small town and kind of country, and but we try to take care of kids, and it's not just in the hallway; it's outside too.
Definitely. So now it's your first year of head coach. Do you have any memories from that?
Oh,
were you so nervous or blocked it out?
It was Gunner, Coach Quick's first senior year, and
wow, your son.
You have a different relationship with teachers, coaches, administrators. All when their kids come through, you have a different relationship with that class. You've seen them since they were small, and you've gone through the whole thing. You just have a different relationship with those kids, just like you did when Max came through. It's the same thing, and every Thursday night we would have a group of guys that would stay the night. We'd have 10 or 12 guys that would stay at our house when Coach G came through, and then when Max came through, same thing. There's 5-year difference in that. Through that 5 years, we didn't have that. It's just a different relationship you have with them, and so taking care of them, trying to figure out what to do, because, as a defensive coordinator, you ran the defense, you took care of that. I was in charge of the equipment room, which takes about 90% of your extra time that you have. And so never came out of the hole back there in the back, and then within 1 week, I'm in the other end of the building, and I'm answering the phone from people that I have no idea who they are. And so, and we're trying to win football games too. And so, no, it's kind of a blur. It was those kids did a great job. They got beat in the third round that year versus Plano East, I believe. And they did a great job, and they bought in early because it wasn't the same, and it's never the same. You can't be somebody else. Your program is your program, but there are things that are different, and they bought into it real quick, which maybe because of the relationship growing up with those kids growing up together with us, and but that group was it was a wonderful group, and they without question did what we tried to ask them to do, and so everybody was kind of feeling new. Everybody had different roles too. We had a new defensive coordinator. Everybody kind of moved up the chain, and so everybody's really searching on what to do. But no, still a blur. Still a blur.
Still a blur. But talking about your kids, I mean, that's amazing that you had your son go through his senior year of high school as first year as head coach. But now both your sons are coaches.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Yeah. Well, couldn't be more proud. And you talk to them and you tell them, there's other ways, there's other things to do with technology the way it is now, and there's so many more choices that you could make to double your money. You make a good living coaching and teaching, but you're not going to get rich. There's nothing left when you get done for the kids, but there's a whole lot more rewards to it other than just monetary. And so you try to talk to them. You tell them, you have to understand this is the way it is. This is it's time away from your home. It's time away from your family. You have to decide if it's worth it or not. And I didn't tell them not to. I didn't tell them to. And they made that decision. But it's just like Coach G said, and Coach and Max said. We survived and we did pretty good doing this. We want to be able to experience the same thing, and it all boils down to both of them with the kids, and that's just the way they were raised, and that's how the only way it's acceptable. So,
Yes, sir.
very proud of them.
I would be too.
And very looking forward to being able to follow them too.
Oh,
Once this,
absolutely.
I'll be sitting up there in the bleachers with my foam finger and getting it on. We're gonna cheer them on.
Will you come back to any Lufkin games? To see
Oh,
your son
absolutely.
coach?
I'll always be a Lufkin Panther fan.
absolutely.
Always. And it doesn't matter. Kids. The only thing that changes is the name on the back of their helmet or back of their jersey. The same kids. It's still our kids, and they're still wearing purple. And no, absolutely. I'll always be a Lufkin Panther.
Do you think you'll be like texting your son in the middle of game, like, "Hey, run this"?
No. He's just like me. He doesn't. The one thing he doesn't do, he never takes his phone to the game. It's always put up. And no, and I tell them growing up and everything. Look, you have to be your own man. You have to be your own person. You want to use some of the things that we did here, or you want to get it on, but don't try to be somebody you're not. You got to be your own person. And there's a coach Quick in Kirbyville. There's a Coach Quick here, and that's who they got to be. That's who they are.
And now, speaking of retirement, Coach, when did you, in your mind, be like, "I'm done"?
Well, I don't know that there was a specific day that said, "Okay, I'm done." Everybody you talk to talks about when you know. This is year 40 for me, and my wife retired October 31st. She was with CPS for 35 years,
Wow.
And the timing of it, I'm 62 years old, and
Still got a lot of life left.
I do. I plan on it. I plan on traveling and doing some things that we've never got to do. I figured the other day, I was born in 1962. In 1968, I started school, and I've been in school ever since. 1960, I've been in school. So I went through high school, went straight to college, straight to coaching, and I've lived by the bell since 1968. And so, I'm ready to turn the alarm off, and I'm ready to not have to cram 5 days of work into Saturday and Sunday, so I have to go back to work on Monday. So I don't know there was a specific day, but I'm very much at peace with this, and I loved the last group that we had. Not very many people get to choose the last group they coach, and I told that group it didn't matter if it was 20 years of coaching or 50 years of coaching. This was the group I would have chosen. I love this group, and so I'm very fortunate in that.
Definitely fortunate to end off.
Yep.
Let's see our coach. Talk to me about the season. You know, when I interview you, you always said this season's different from like the others. Can you talk more about that?
Well, each group has their own identity. Each group, they set their identity from January when they take over until whenever they finish. I talked to the group when I was talking to them after our playoff run was done. I had the juniors stand up, and this was, December something, whatever it was, and I said, "Juniors, stand up." And I said, "That'll be the last time you're ever called a junior, because you are no longer a junior. You're a senior. From this day forward, this is your team. You're taking this over." And so each group has an identity. The one thing that I noticed about this group early was a lot of kids can't take correction from a peer. They take it from a coach or take it from a so-called adult, but a lot of kids, when somebody says something that's in the same position, or maybe another defensive person says something to you, or an offensive person says something to you, they see that as an attack on them. This group didn't have that. They took it as that person wants both of us to be as good as we can be. They didn't see it as a personal attack. And when you have that, when you can take correction and it not feel like someone's attacking you, then you have an opportunity to be great. And they started that in January, and they stayed on each other. Some was heated, and when you're going to have a group of competitors, you better have some that will, or they'll think you're an all boys choir when you get off the bus. So you got to have some, and but overall, at the end of the day, they knew that the only reason anyone would say anything to them was because they wanted to be as good as they could be, and they set their goals. And so when you have that group like this group, and you're going to look up 20 years from now, and when you have reunions or they come back, they'll come back as groups. They're not going to come back as individuals. You'll see class reunions, and there's 4 or 5 or 6 of them. They're going to come back as a huge group because that's who they are. They'll be close for the rest of their life because of how they did, how they prepared, and what their personality is.
Okay, I feel like we've been talking about so much serious topics, but give me a funny story over the years that just comes to mind. You tell it at parties, and you're like, "I cannot believe this happened."
Well, I don't know. Oh, I don't know. I'd have to think about that. We had there'd be thousands of them that just what kids say or how they act or what they did.
Or maybe from this year, that stood out to you.
I would have to think about that.
Yeah.
It's tough sometimes, and you really have to make yourself look at the things that way, because you can keep your head down and you're going, and because there's no stop, you're trying to get better, and you look up and it's over, and you have to go back and try to think, okay, well, what happened here? You don't allow yourself to relax or appreciate what's going on. They won 10 football games in a row, and you don't really appreciate that until after it's over, because you just don't have time to think about it, or you don't allow yourself to. But I don't know. I know there's thousands of things that we laughed about, but it's every day. Your meeting rooms, you go in there with your position guys. You always, on my meeting, the first 5 minutes was anything and everything. We're not talking about football right now. Let them talk about their day or whatever happened and everything. And normally all that stuff was pretty funny, but because they stayed on each other. But I don't know. I don't know if I can pull up one thing.
Coach, what will you miss the most about coaching?
Well, the biggest thing was or is going to be just the relationship with the kids, with the players. The first year that took over as head football coach, I did not coach a position. And I went from being the defensive coordinator to the head coach, and I did not coach a position that first year. And it about killed me because you don't have that meeting room time. You don't have that film study, that grade check, all the stuff that you do with your group, your position group. You have to have that. I walked around. All I did was answer the phone in the back and make sure we got on the bus. And so it about killed me. And so getting that group again, I said, talk to the defensive coordinator at the time, and I said, look, I've got to coach a position. Fine, we're gonna pick one position. I'm going to have a meeting room. I'm going to have film study. I'm going to do scout reports. And so I think that's the biggest thing, just the relationship with the kids. And I can tell already it's been a week and a half since I talked to the kids, and it kind of came out that I was going to retire. And now, it's only been a week and a half, and I miss it. I miss that.
Yeah.
Because I'm not in there. The other guys, they're running the stuff right now. And so it's already there. And I think, especially in August and September, it'll come back on me a little bit. I'll have to deal with it.
How are you going to deal with it?
I don't know. I just every day, I guess, I don't know how much Mama's going to listen to me. So I got to be careful there. But I don't know. I'll deal. Just watching them and knowing, because you're going to know about 70% of the team next year, and then less percent the next year, and then won't know any after that. But still wearing the purple, so it doesn't matter. Names don't matter.
Names don't matter. That's right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think I have anything else from you, Coach. Oh, wait. Hold on. All right, I have one more question. I can cut that out. How has coaching changed starting from when you first started coaching to now?
Well, one of the things that is when you first started, you started at the bottom of the barrel, and you tried to work your way up. You went to the middle school. You went to freshman, JV. You worked your way into that position. Nowadays, because of such a shortage of teachers and things, there's people that are coming in that really aren't varsity coaches, and they're coaching on the varsity, and you're having to teach them what to do in every situation. And so a lot of the staffs are the younger staffs. Basically, the football they know is what you've taught them. So when you get in a meeting and you're asking about this, their answer is the same answer you're giving. Well, that's not what you want. I want an opinion on what we should do. Let's get everything together and get the best thing we can do. And so a lot of times now you don't get that. You get what you've taught them, and it's just repeated back to you. And the older coaches, they understand what I'm talking about here is you want an opinion. I don't want somebody to tell me what I told you. I want an opinion on what we should do and what's the best thing. And then we'll come up with, by combining everything together, we'll come up with a solution. So kids and young coaches really don't have to work their way up like they used to. Film exchange is so different now from the 16 millimeter reel film. Now it's on computer. We exchange film by pushing an enter button. Used to, you got in the car and you drove and you met halfway and you had round reels of film, and you traded them at the McDonald's, or you traded them somewhere in the middle. When we first were at Arkadelphia, we would film the games, 16 millimeter film. We would put it on the bus. After the game, the bus would go to Little Rock, and they would take it off and deliver it to the film store that made the film. Then they would put it back on the bus, and we'd go to the bus station and pick it up. And then we went through with VHS tapes. You'd put them all in a shoebox, and you'd meet halfway, and then you'd pick what you want, and they'd pick what we want, and then we would give them back at the game. And so that's a big thing now. Now you just, I mean, they're sitting there watching film on their phone, and we, you couldn't see. The 16 millimeter is always blurry, and you couldn't. Now you can see. You can see if the kid shaved that day. It's just a great video, and so great film. And I think that's probably the biggest thing is everybody wants to say, oh, the kids have changed. Kids are different now and everything. No, they're not. The adults are different. They're allowing things that they didn't allow years before. The kids aren't any different. Kids are going to do what you ask them to do or do what you allow them to do. Mm-hmm. And we have a quote in coaching that says either you're coaching it or you're allowing it to happen. That's it. There's no other way because kids will do what you ask them to do. And so it's not the kids' fault that we're allowing things that we used to not allow. So kids hadn't changed. Adults have changed. And I think the biggest thing with coaching now, the number one thing with coaching now is college football and the money and how they can move from one school to the other without penalty, and then they get paid for doing that. Or you're paying a kid that has not played it down yet, and so it's not earned like it was. And when we came through, when you signed with a college, you were there 4 years, or you had to sit out a year, couldn't play a year, lost a year of eligibility before you could play again. And so now somebody beats you out or a coach gets on you hard, you just jump ship and go to the next school, and then they let you do that. Mm-hmm. So the adults are letting that happen. The kids aren't. Kids didn't make the rule. Adults made the rule, and so it's still the greatest game. It still it teaches everything about life. It makes kids sacrifice. It makes kids work, and they get what they put into it. And the game hadn't changed. It's just the people that are running the game have changed.
Okay, I know. So that was your last question, but I have one more. Talking to Zion Williams and Evan Young, I interviewed them about their signing day. They talked about how much they see you as a father figure in football and outside of football too. Can you kind of talk about that?
Well, I don't know. I know if they don't trust you, then you're not going to get anything out of them. And how do you build trust? Well, you hold them accountable. You chew their butt when they need it. And you hug their neck when they need that too. And so, I don't know about the other. You just got to love them, and you got to, and you do that by doing those three things. You hold them accountable, and you do what you're supposed to do. That shows more that you don't hand them or give them stuff right there. You hold them accountable, and it's important to you that they do things right, and they carry that forward, and that's how they interpret that, And so, I'm excited about seeing those two play because I will be somewhere in the fall where those two are on the sideline. I know that.
Yeah. Well, I think we're done, Coach Quick. It's always been a pleasure to interview you. I can officially say this is the last one. And I'm so grateful that you've been coaching here for 30 years. You clearly have a lot of memories, but I know you're very excited for the next 30 to see what happens.
I'm excited. We'll see what it is. I don't have a plan. I don't have a plan for the 21st, but I have. I'll figure something out. But I appreciate you. I appreciate what you do, and I'm excited to be. To know you and see how you've grown and see the things that you've done, and there'll be somewhere where you're on the sideline that I'll see you too. I know.